I was in an anthropology class, and I said, if I pass this test, if I pass this midterm that I've done no studying for, I've only come to class, taken notes, never even opened my book to study outside of class. I said, if I pass this test, I'm dropping out of UCLA. And I got a B+ on the test. And I remember walking out of the classroom, and a kid walked out of the classroom. He reached in his backpack and pulled out a Corona and cracked it and drank his Corona on campus. And I was like, what a tool. I'm out of here.
What is cannabis doing for you?
Put some dog tags together, man.
All right, guys. Hey, listen, welcome back to PV Unfiltered, the number one, right, Tommy? The number one cannabis podcast in the nation. I always say really excited, but listen, guys, we're sitting here with Kenny Morrison, and he is the owner, CEO, founder of Venice Cookie Company. And we have kind of an intimate connection on there, as in the fact that his mother, which owns her own PR agency, is also doing some amazing things for us. So he's lucky to have her not only as a mom, but also helping on the forefront of where Venice is going and anything else that Kenny's involved with. So listen, man, thank you. I appreciate it. We had a little chat before we came on here. Got a kid on the way, 2.5-year-old now, enjoying life on that end. Obviously, COVID is putting all of us in this shitty position, but you know, what are we going to do? We just kind of troop on. But
yeah, I mean, you know, we're obviously lucky in the cannabis industry as essential businesses, but I think the chief mom officer would rather I do this from home than come down there.
I agree. I mean, you're in a position that a lot of people are, and the exposure on that level would not be fun, you know, and keeping everybody safe is first and foremost, especially mama bear.
Yep. A pregnant mama bear, no less.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Both of those.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's shoot the shit a little bit about Venice Cookie. I mean, I obviously, you know, you've been in this game a long time. One of the pioneers, honestly, coming to this point forward. You know, the ups and downs. I've been through your timeline. We've all kind of visited, or say been visited by the feds in some way or another. You had a couple of them on yours. We had a couple as well. So, you know, I don't even want to talk about that, to be honest with you. Even though it is a scar that I think is worn as kind of like a Purple Heart coming through this. We've been there on that end, and it's something you want to talk about. That's great. But more so, it's just like, you know, being able to talk and the understanding that we're in this for 9 years. I think you're 12 or 13 years into this. Is that right?
Something like that. Yeah. I started this in 2008, but I was, you know, opened some retail shops back in 2006 and did that for a little while.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, a fair amount of time that's in this, and you know as well as I do, you know, we've been kind of under the radar and then out, and I think watching companies come and go, and, you know, good practices, bad practices. I mean, I think we have that parallel to see what's gone on and what's going on in the industry, and getting to this point is, for a lot of people, it's amazing to be, you know, sitting where we're sitting. But more so, you know, what's the future look like, you know, on your part? Where's Venice Cookie going?
You know, I think, you know, anyone who's built up the scar tissue and had kind of the good fortune to last in the cannabis industry as long as people like you and I have, I think the future is looking probably a little, it's got to be easier than it's been, right? I mean, we've both been through the era of absolutely zero regulation whatsoever and all of the challenges and obstacles that provides. And now having navigated the first couple of years of the regulated industry in Washington and California myself, and you in a few states, I just can't help but think, it's going to be nice to have a traditional banking relationship rather than these banking alternatives.
Oh yeah.
And I just think in general, as the legal market grows, as more and more states come on board, I'm hoping things finally start to get a little more normalized from a business standpoint.
Right. That I mean, like you said, the banking has always been, that's always one of the ones that just kills. I mean, we literally just had another bank account closed last week. We're fortunate that we do have some banking that has been full cannabis and whatnot, and there's fees that come along with that. I mean, we're all dealing with that. But can you? This is for my perspective, but I want to see yours. Is this getting any easier for you?
Dealing with the regulations was more difficult than dealing with the raids. Okay.
I'm glad that, see, this is great because we're on the same wavelength when it comes to that. This isn't any easier for us.
Yeah,
it's actually harder.
I find the Bureau of Cannabis Control more oppressive, and our legislature, and all the good ideas they come up with, as it's more oppressive than just law enforcement was in the pre-regulatory gray area days.
100%. And that's what's great is because, and that's what's like, if I concluded, if we're done with this podcast, that was one of the biggest things for me to understand. Now, I mean, let's be real about this because, Venice Cookie for us has been an icon. Like in a way for me, I've watched you on panels, I've watched you talk and then just the ironic fact that somehow we ended up with your mom as our PR company, which has done fucking amazing things for us.
Awesome.
To be sitting and talking with you and being on that parallel of understanding of where we're at in this industry, it's really cool for me because, once again, it's like that, it's like one of those things where you see people that are boxers or athletes that have had this person that they've looked up to in their company and watching that direction. And we have really been a part of watching you and other companies and now to be able to sit and talk with you about this stuff intimately. It's the same thing as like a fighter or somebody else that looks up to somebody and then all of a sudden they're standing in the ring and this guy's like, either they're fighting them or they're, patting them on the back. And so that I got to get that out because it really is that way for me. And
yeah, I think a difference between you and I is I really had no organized business background whatsoever before I started this thing. Right. So I almost, and maybe it was helpful in a way, I almost didn't even realize how ridiculously difficult running a business was, or this business was, because I had nothing to compare it to.
How about a business and then you get into cannabis?
Oh yeah, I would think that would be a lot worse.
Oh, and that's my conversations that I've had in interviews. I'm not saying it to try to divert anybody from cannabis. And I've always said, come into the jacuzzi with us. You know what I mean? It's 120 degrees in this jacuzzi. So you're in and out, it really is. I've had other businesses and this is by far the hardest business that I've ever been in. And I'm not saying it to, once again, detour people. I'm saying it because it's reality. And the people that are in this, even, the people that are coming into this, but people like yourself, like I know what this is like and it's not easy. And other people think that you and I and anybody else that are in the position where we are today, it's like we woke up and it was just throwing money at something and here we are. Like they don't really understand what it's like and for you to jeopardize your life, your family's life. And I don't say that carelessly because there's a mission behind this in everybody. But it's, to have the federal, to people be rated, they don't know what that's like. And it's truly not being, don't get me wrong. There's 100% out there, people that have been careless about what they've done. But I can tell you this, and my family's involved in this, and I'm not a careless person, but I believe in what we're doing and in every aspect of cannabis. And once again, the story's out there. I think when we had our delivery service, it was a big understanding for us on what this was doing for people. And that's been the backbone for us.
Yeah, and I think retail, and that's a great place to start, right? Because it really allows you to feel good about the brand you're building and really understand firsthand, get that anecdotal evidence, those one-on-one encounters with people who are so grateful for what you're providing to them, and you get to quiz them all you want and probably, made some connections and some friendships. I had that same experience. But yeah, I think like the challenges today too are so incredibly different than they were in the pre-regulatory days. I think people who have experienced both really get to see the full spectrum of just how fucking difficult running a cannabis business can be. I mean, the type of stupid shit I have to deal with right now, for, like I was telling you, I went camping over the weekend. Friday afternoon, my wife and I and my kid are trying to get out of town. And I had to wire some money to someone, and my current bank, I don't know if your bank makes you do this, they make me notarize a document every time I send a wire.
No.
So it's like, in the middle of a pandemic, I got to drive somewhere, go find someone who's willing to notarize a document. I mean, not to sound like a privileged jerk, but it's like spending,
Are you kidding? I mean, listen, you should be able to do just like anybody else. You should be able to do a wire from your desk and leave it at that. It's not, it's not a matter of hiding money. It's the opposite of that. And I get it. I don't know who you're banking with currently in California, but I have finally landed somebody, or they landed, however you want to look at it. The relationship is great. It's a normal banking situation. Within, and I'll give you that information, afterwards. And it's and once again, we lost a bank account last week, and that was a Michigan bank account, but we have another bank account in Michigan that's been good. But you get in this mode. I don't know how it is for you, but it's almost like you don't feel good unless you have 2, 3, 4 bank accounts, because at any given time, they go. And there's nothing worse than sitting here. I think here we have just under or just over 100 employees here in San Diego. And I know what it's like to stuff envelopes with cash. And at the drop of a hat, then the morale goes down. You have people on they're getting paid through their accounts, and then all of a sudden they're getting paid cash again. It just sucks that we have to deal with that. And like you said, running a cannabis company is unlike anything else. It's all the trials that you have in a normal business, and even though we are a normal business, all the trials that you have in that, it's like being a rugby player. Then all of a sudden everybody's just jumping on your back, and once again, the people that you should be able to the CCIA and all these people the Bureau of Cannabis that should be helping. Dude, I don't know how it is for your facility, but we get quarterly visits that are, they're 6 to 8 hours a visit, and they go through everything. But yet I've got 4 unlicensed dispensaries all within a mile and a half of my house that are doing $50,000, $60,000 a day and putting out shit that is so harmful to people. And I test it all the time. And we just keep that for our in-house understanding. It's like, and then I have meetings with the Bureau and say, what are you guys doing about this? And it's like, unless there's a complaint filed, sorry, there's nothing that we can really do on this. And also I think, Lori Ajax kind of said it herself in a meeting I had with her. She was like, hey, we regulate inside the regulated ecosystem. She was like, when I was at Alcohol Beverage Control, when I was at ABC, we didn't regulate people making bathtub gin. Right.
And that's kind of the approach that needs to be taken here. It's like anyone who's opted into the regulated ecosystem needs to be given a pass to some large degree.
I think so.
Right? Because obviously, if we're willing to spend all the fees and jump through all the hoops, it's almost like, okay, great, you get a pass, and let's take care of everybody else who might not be operating in as safe a manner.
Yeah, you would think so. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we all came from that market, but that doesn't mean that we have loyalty, to that market. This isn't like a gang where you're jumped in and you're killed out or however that works. I mean, it make a decision. I get it, but also there should be consequences if you are operating illegally. There should be the consequences that are there, and it really does suck because I don't have a dispensary, but I would really have a tough time. I have a lot of friends that do, and to know that they are paying all this money and taxes and going through all these hoops, and to have an unlicensed dispensary 2 blocks away that's selling, unfortunately there are companies that are selling both sides of the fence. Yep. And, to go buy a cartridge at one dispensary and it's $75, $80, and you go over to another one, 2 blocks away, and they're selling it for, $25, $30. And the fact that they are also using dirty oil or, whatever that is. I've done my homework on this, and yeah, it sucks because we have that opportunity as well to make that other side work for us. And we've just never, once we were in the position to be able to go to licensing, we just have never looked back in any market at all. I mean, we're now in the position, Michigan, the same thing. We entered into licensing as soon as that was available to us. Oklahoma is the same way. We're just going into Arizona, and just like anybody else, we have the options to go into these markets and open up on the unlicensed side and kind of run that black market. But it's just, it's not a choice that we even consider. So
it's brutal dealing with the regulations and dealing with, it's brutal.
Yeah,
it's brutal. And, I get it. I don't think it's a conspiracy to put us out of business. Some people have that far-fetched concept.
I don't believe that.
I just think, right, there's just so many layers of people who are, trying to throw a good idea into the mix that just too many good ideas is a terrible idea.
I mean, how many more stickers do we have to have on our products here?
I want to know what the regulatory framework looks like for the transport of plutonium compared to cannabis. I bet you it's easy. I'm just guessing. I haven't done the homework.
It's probably not funny.
I bet you it's easier. There's probably less paperwork that goes into transporting plutonium than cannabis.
That I got to use that at some point. Seriously, right? I will reference you each time I use it. That is the truth. I like I said. I mean, we have stickers on top of stickers. I mean, it's so redundant. A sticker on a box. Sticker's got to be on the cartridge or anything else. It literally has to physically be there. It's just, I mean, our people downstairs, it's crazy when you're down there. How many stickers we have to put on things and labels and within reason, I get it, but it's like so overbearing. The cost, the time, what used to our cost and our time to package a cartridge now versus, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Oh, it's crazy. I don't know. I mean, we have stickers on top of stickers now.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, I was talking to the CEO of Herbal. I think we talked, I don't know if we discussed Mike Beaudry. He's got something like 150 employees. This was like maybe about 6 months ago, we were talking. He brought on additional 11 staff members to deal with nothing but metric. So he had like 11 full-time employees that are dealing with nothing but inputting inventory and handling the regulatory.
It's crazy. We're all in that boat. I mean, I don't know how it's working for you. I mean, I don't know our exact numbers. It's a full team that's down there for distribution and metric and that whole process, but it's crazy. And the amount of people, I love everybody that works with us, but I can tell you this, that because of the regulations, we have at least 12 to 15 people that would never be here or would be here in a different capacity,
Sure.
but are just handling that side of it.
Yeah.
It's, and as we were looking at it, it was like, wow, like we got to add another person. We got to add another person. And all this is just to keep up with the regulations. And in the very beginning, we thought, okay, a couple people on board for metric and whatnot. No, this is a whole team that just handles that side of it.
I guess one of the ways I dealt with it is I just went asset light, right? So I'm no longer manufacturing my own products. I'm no longer distributing my own products. And that's been a huge burden lifted off of my shoulders, is just, letting people handle both of those license types, and me just kind of being a branding and a marketing company has been, it's been a blessing.
That's good. I think we've gone, for us, I don't want to say we're control freaks. I think we just can't find the real way of making that happen for us. And maybe it's just kind of how we are. I don't know, like being able to release stuff. I know, like I talked about with Indus, where we have used them for a year. So I have to ask you, like, how is that working? I don't know who you're distributed under, but how is that working? Because you have multiple SKUs, obviously, with cookies and your cannabis quenchers and tea. How does that?
I was about to say that. I mean, I haven't had the Indus experience yet. They were distributing your products for a while, and now you're back to self-distribution, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had a not so great experience somewhere else, maybe we'd take it back on. But so far we're using someone called Garden House Brands,
okay,
to do our distribution, and we share an investor. So there's kind of a little bit of a family vibe there.
Gotcha.
And it's actually been a great relationship. And totally point blank. And I tell them, and I tell this to everyone all the time, they're just better at distribution than we were. You know what I mean?
Distribution sucks.
Yeah. And I'm not the best ops guy. So it's like managing that whole nightmare. And you understand how difficult distribution is. You show up at a shop and, we don't have the cash. Can you come back this afternoon? And
Deal
you're
with
like,
it.
no,
yeah,
we gotta go.
And these are set up, these are set up meetings on the distribution side. We call them meetings. And that's where our drivers are showing up. It's not unannounced.
You're calling 4 hours out. We're 4 hours away. Yep. We're 2 hours away. We're 1 hour away.
Oh, yeah.
And you get there and they don't have your money.
Right.
It's
yeah.
So yeah.
So I think the problem, and I'm curious to see if you're running into this at all. The one thing, and Indus is a great company, or was a great company, and I think there's just been a lot of management things that have went on, and there's great people in that company, and the concept is there. But I think maybe they're
trying to do too much.
Yeah. And I think in our part, when you're a cartridge company, and for us having chocolate bars and gummies and carts, we're a dime. You have kind of a niche where you're at, and you're really good at that side of it. For us, right now there's 308 on BDS. I think there's 380 cartridge companies in California. I mean, there's a few out there. The same thing when you get into gummies and when you get into chocolates. But the problem that we had, and I don't know if this is something that you're seeing or you guys have figured this out, and if you have, great, because we just couldn't, is having a sales team or having people, on that level of distribution. We still retained sales as well, but they did. That was one of the things that we did work together with them on. And, to walk in and carry multiple lines of the same thing under brands, it's difficult. It's a lot of weight on a salesperson's back to sit at the table with a buyer and say, Platinum Vape is this, and Well, they get that question. Well, which one do you think is better? And as a salesperson, that's a tough place to be when you have 3, 4, 5 cartridge lines in front of you trying to sell to the same buyer and give an understanding of why you think all of them should be on the shelf.
Well, you don't have that problem, right? Are your reps full time with you?
Yeah. But okay. We used in our deal with Indus, we used right. their sales team, and that was part of our agreement with them. And they have a great sales team. It's just it's a tough place to be, and I don't know if your position is that you have your own sales reps, or if you've turned that whole thing over as we did at one point. We've always kept our sales reps, and we kept what we initially had in place, and then they brought on more, and then we started to see that it was a really tough place to be for the sales reps, and in the fact that when you now add another cartridge company, another chocolate, another gummy, and they have their own in-house brands, and they have the other brands that they were marketing.
Right. Yeah, we have no crossover with our distributor. It's Dom Pen. So if you know that vape brand, Dom Pen,
yep.
they were a vape company. And so bringing on our suite of products, it was a really, really good fit. And it just sort of gave them, it allowed them to play in categories that weren't as competitive and crowded as theirs. So
that's awesome.
Good synergy there, right? Yeah. I mean, that's the double-edged sword. You're talking about, a category vape where there's a zillion competitors.
Yep.
But the chunk of revenue that's available, the market share of the vape category compared to beverage is, ridiculous. So it's a give and take, But yeah, we have a product that there's not really a reason why every single shop in the state shouldn't carry it. And right. I don't think Dom Pen feels that way about their own product. They think of it more as a specialized vape brand. So I think it in a way can make life easier for their sales team because they have something for everyone now.
Right. That's how that should work. And I think growing a line of SKUs that is diversified is really under distribution. That's the model that should take place. And I know everybody wants to, the big distribution companies, I know they're all in a tough position when they bring on, multiple brands of the same category. It's tough. Some I think are getting there. But I think you need to have a brand that's also on a shelf and sells itself in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And you know what? I think as the pages in your catalog expands, unless you're one of the few top tier, hi buddy, say hi to George.
Hey, how are you? Wow.
Unless you're one of those few top tier distribution companies, as you add more and more pages to your catalog, I don't think you're going to be getting more time with the buyer. Right. So it's like they're still allotting that same 10 or 15 or 20 minutes to hang and talk with you. But as the catalog gets 2 and 3 pages or 2 and 3 times thicker, you're still trying to fit in your spiel in the same amount of time. And I think that's what's tough.
Well, you're doing that. And then it makes it more difficult to bring on another brand, to walk in there and have been dealing with these guys for a period of time and having, say 3 cartridge companies, and then walking in and going, hey, so here's the deal. I got another cartridge company. I'd love to get them on the shelf. And it's like, okay, it's right. Easier for you as a separate brand to walk through that door behind that distribution company to get your product on the shelf at some point than it is to be a salesperson and have another cartridge company and another cartridge company. I don't care if you're friends with the buyer. At some point they go, hey, we got to figure this out. And we've been witness to that. That was what the negative side that we found.
Yeah. It's how are you going to bottle that passion for 5 and 6 different vape brands when they know you don't smoke all 5, 6 of those vape brands?
Exactly.
And especially I think cannabis sales, cannabis sales is not the hard sell. Like cannabis buyers, they don't want to be sold. I
Right.
don't think they want someone to come in and bullshit them. So it's like, yeah, if you're owning your reps and they've really developed a passion for your brand, that's the best way for them to tell your story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So how are things going? I mean, with all this shit that's going on, how are things going with Venice?
I'm going to answer that question. I'm walking out to my trailer. We have bought during COVID, we bought a trailer so we can work from home and get away from the little dude. So
we didn't. We've made some pretty valued commitments on our part because, a trailer just wouldn't work in our situation. But we've been very fortunate here too.
I hope the internet, I shouldn't lose you, but let's see what happens.
I think we're doing good. It's a little cut. Now we're really cut.
Oh shit.
There you are.
I'm back. Okay, good. I don't know where I lost you there. We're good. We're back.
There. Shit. Now you're in the office.
Yeah, exactly. Our little trailer. Venice Cookie Company, the big transition moving to asset. So I went from having 40 plus employees and now I have 4. And having the second kid on the way, it's freed up my time. I mean, the amount of the amount of email and the amount of administrative and everything, all the insurances we've been able to give up. It's allowed me to probably get back to what I like to do the most, and that's product development and, come up with fun, clever ideas and execute on them. And I find over the last couple of years, I've come up with a whole lot more ideas than I have found time to execute on them.
And so now you have time.
Hopefully that's going to change. But we're in the middle of selling our licenses. We have 5 different cannabis licenses in different cities. So we still have a lot of regulatory and administrative disentanglement that we got to execute, and operationally we're asset light, but we still have a lot of assets that we have to kind of move away from.
Gotcha. So you're freeing up space on the hard drive.
Totally. You know what? And for me, it's been a godsend working with a third party distributor. And I think the first experience I got with it was when we created our beverage subtlety. We have the THC version that we created years ago as a dry tea in California, and then recently launched the bottled tea in California. But before we launched the bottled THC version, we made a hemp version that's at Airlawn, and it's in 7-Eleven in Florida, and it's at some different places. But I think it was, for me personally, it was like a huge eye opener to when we got that launched. It was pretty much as simple as send an Excel spreadsheet with our formula off to the co-packer. They bought, and we set up with the logistics company. They shipped, pallets of beverages to a bunch of different distributors. And I was like, that's it? That's all I have to do? And now I'm got beverages in stores?
Wow.
It was such an eye opener, and it was so easy compared to the cannabis industry that I said, wow, if I can kind of start to leverage, those services in cannabis, I'd be a fool to not do it.
How are the margins on that?
Edibles have good margins, right? I mean, even beverage. I mean,
on the other side, when you're doing this stuff to, to the regular stuff to stores and your hemp side of it, are the margins pretty good or
comparable?
Wow. That's the thing that I've always dreaded, on that end of it, is I listen to the stories of people that have a little bit of crossover in there, and it's like, shit, you lose so much, on the margins because people just naturally beat the hell out of you to get into a store.
I'm sure the hemp space, as it gets more crowded, the 99-cent burger wars will start and the margins will dwindle. But, that was the other thing. It was like, wow, for comparable margins, none of the regulatory brain damage and none of the oppressive state boundaries to deal with. You know what I mean? We can have product in a bunch of different states and sidestep all all of the overblown regulatory, it was a no-brainer. And it's basically the same thing we experience in cannabis, right? Like, you kind of have to build your brand before legalization comes, because if you wait, someone's going to be too late, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the FDA still doesn't approve a beverage that has the word CBD on it, right? So we put the word hemp on it. But I think right now is definitely the time to be building the brands.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've already done that, and now I'm in a state of confusion because, I'm sitting here and it's like we model what we've done. I mean, you have to understand that there's no, you have been carving the path for a lot of us, right behind you. We're in your wake, if you want to look at it that way. And so, we're sitting here, it's like, oh, Venice Cookie, they're doing this, this, and this. So, we're just hammering away. We just always want to grow to that next level, as you have done. And now all of a sudden I'm looking at it and it's like, fuck, this guy's happier than shit. He's sitting in a trailer. He's done this now and, and knocked off 40 employees, and he's, and I get it. I totally get it. But I go, wow, maybe, those are directions that we should be seeking as well. I mean, I don't know. It's you do. I don't know if you're really good at it, but you look happy.
Yeah, no, I'm settled into enjoying my free time, and straight up, if I probably had the business chops and the operational skill sets that you and Cody have, maybe I would still be doing it. Also, I feel like the cannabis industry has aged me. You know what I mean? And at some point I'm like, fuck, I'm ready to be over. Like, if I can outsource things, that's something, that's what I should do.
No, I don't think it's a matter of having business chops and whatever. Obviously, you could say that, but you're Venice Cookie. It's you didn't get there because you don't know what the hell you're doing. You got there because you knew what you had to do and what you've been doing. And now you're making these other transitions. I don't think it's by all means, from my side of it, it's not careless at all. I think it's very well educated and planned, and as a need. And you are right. I mean, I've noticed gray hair on me that I've never had. The grayness in this beard was not there a year ago. I swear, I could take pictures because I know this. Cannabis it's daunting. It's the best, worst business I've ever been in. There's something that's drawing to this. And the other side of it is really being involved with my family. And we are all anxiety people. I mean, that's myself, my kids, like we've all suffered through, and as anybody, if has, we've all gone through this and live with anxiety. Even to the point where a few weeks ago, literally I had to go home because I just 5 minutes before a podcast, it hasn't happened in a long time, but I had to leave. I like it. It's just, sometimes everything just hammers down on you, and you can't, it's anxiety, it's stress, it's a lot of these things. And I took about 5 days and really did some soul searching in a lot of ways. And it's really kind of ironic, where you're at and with what you're doing, but, and then sitting and talking with Cody, it's, sometimes people, this isn't easy, and it's stressful in every direction. And then when you cap on top of that, and this, I mean, having your commitment to your employees, like we really take all of this serious. And we always sit back, and Cody and I talking, and it's like, man, it's sometimes it's like, this moment right now is not worth it. It's not worth any amount of money. And, but it's the other side for us where, we really do value our employees and the people. And now we have these fucking commitments to them, to make sure that we continue this. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but sometimes it really is overbearing. And I don't care who you are. You have to figure out your space and how you can keep that, from this. and keeping a sane mind. You know what I mean? And maybe a fucking trailer for me is it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that to be a smartass. Like, I really, Tommy can vouch. Like, we have a meeting before our podcast. 4 or 5 of us that have meetings before our podcast just to go through things and other people bring light to what you're doing. And I left. It's not a joke. I left, and Janet ended up doing the podcast, and you'll see that come up. And it's because of this that sometimes it just hits in the wrong way. And having a family, I have a fiance, and I have my kids and grandkids and then the family that we have here, and there's a lot of commitments there. And I just, sometimes it's one of those things. People think it's easy, man. It's not. Running businesses and running cannabis business is on a different level.
I think that's probably the number one misunderstanding of people in the cannabis industry is I've had people go, oh, it must be an easy business to run. It must be fun. You must have a lot of spare time. It's like, you will never work so hard in your life.
No.
And
nor will the people that work with you.
Yeah. We brought on a controller recently, and he was like, oh, I'm very interested to learn about the cannabis industry, and I'm very interested to learn. He wanted to learn the cannabis business. And I told him, I said, I don't think you're going to learn so much about business here,
right, compared
to all the businesses you've worked at in the past. I think this is actually going to teach you more about yourself than the cannabis business.
That's a great say. What you're saying right now is just, it's spot on with that, because
because it's a fucking grind.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I know what you're saying. And I mean, this is going off in a different direction, but that is the truth. I mean, there's another side to this that, I mean, even then people don't see that rabbit hole that we go down every day, and grind exactly that's what it is. And listen, not the fact that, I mean, I know people have anxieties. I know people have stress. And some of us deal with things in a different way, but I can tell you this, that, I've watched people in this industry that have never had stress, that have never had anxiety. I have friends in this industry that I have talked to, and I can see what they're going through, and I can make that call and go, listen, I know where you're at. And I've had people break down, just like, fuck, I didn't realize this is what I'm dealing with. I have friends that are growers and cultivators that came from other businesses, and they thought it was going to be easy. And then you got to understand, you change your profession because you think that there's this pot of gold at the end of this green rainbow, and there's not. You know what? There's 100 leprechauns over there standing with knives and guns, trying to keep you away from anything that might be behind them. And I've had friends that have literally broke down because they thought changing their life to cannabis was going to make everything better. And
sure. You're saying that anxiety-prone individuals are built for cannabis because anxiety kind of helps you keep your eye on the ball.
Yeah, I don't know. God,
maybe you're saying that. I mean, that's how I kind of interpret it is, you kind of have to be a micromanager to some degree, to make sure everyone's staying on top of all the regulatory aspects. Absolutely. Or back in the day, you definitely had to be a micromanager to make sure, an invoice wasn't being sent out with, I could go into all sorts of things. I mean,
we know that game.
Amazing employees over the years, just like you have, and we owe it all to our employees. But I mean, did you ever have an employee threaten to turn you into the DEA?
I have.
We've had to deal with that.
I have.
We had a guy who crashed our delivery truck, back in maybe 2011, and we fired him. He was going to rat us out to the DEA. It's like,
I lived under that cloud, man. Like when we got raided here, right here at our facility, which we've been at for, I think, almost 6 years. It was on the back of something stupid like that. And, and I've lived under that cloud. I mean, and if Cody was sitting here, that would be a conversation that was literally a weight lifted off our shoulders. We had been raided here, raided at our houses, the whole thing, a bunch of stuff taken. I went to jail. you know, and the employees, as great as they are, you're going to have some that aren't so great and some that are really devious in that way. And my son, which was working for us, my youngest son, which was working for us at that time, in our facility, in the extraction and the lab side of it, you know, he had come up and said, "Hey, just want to let you know, like, there's a lot of talk between a couple of people back here on ratting this out and this and this and this." The day that we went for licensing, we shut down. Once we knew that our facility could be licensed, we shut down for about, I think it was 14, 15 months. We shut down. We opened up a clothing line. I mean, it was the dumbest thing ever. I don't even know where that came from. I still catch shit from Cody on that. But nonetheless, we got rid of everybody. And there's not one person that was working for us then that's working for us now.
The way Juliana Corella from Auntie Dolores, which was another, you know, very early edibles company, her and I had a talk one time, and she was like, "Oh, Kenny, I've kept around so many employees beyond their expiration date for fear of them being vindictive."
Yep.
But again, I don't want to make this a thing where we're, you know, pooing on staff, because, you know, we owe it all to them. And we had probably, I think that's the thing that's awesome about the cannabis industry, is the mission oriented, you know, side of it is built in, right? In the pre-regulatory days, everyone, whether they just got into this to, you know, because it was an intention-based business where they could really align themselves with it, or if they just thought they were getting into it for money, you became an activist by default. And that's, I'm sure, the experience that you had when you were doing the delivery. It's definitely the experience I had when I was interviewing people at retail. I started making a documentary with the people I was interviewing at our retail shop in West Hollywood. And, you know, the story hearing were amazing, you know?
Yeah.
So like the level of dedication of our staff over the years will make me weep. But then there's been a couple people who have really, really taught me what it's like to admit that you are not in control, and admit that they have all the power over you, and really teaches you that if you're going to survive this, you have to choose your words very carefully and really make sure that you always conduct yourself in kind of like a karma-free, you know, handle things as, you know, as properly as you can. And we've heard tons of competitors going out of business because a staffer mouths off to them and they want to show them who's boss, and
they know,
oh yeah, well, fuck you, and your staff goes, oh, fuck me. Fuck me.
Yeah,
we'll see about that.
Yeah,
you know,
no, so. I mean, we have, I know we have a lot of common ground with a few people that have had that happen, people that we both, you know, associate with, and it really sucks, and that's the truth. I think that was another step for us in kind of a cleansing, moving into licensing, and really just having that feeling of like that breath of fresh air. When we rebranded and reopened, it was kind of like, okay, here we are now. We can really do what we've wanted to do without having that thumb, you know. And it's not anybody in particular, but it just happens, and that's, you know. And you're right. I mean, as far as we go, that you can't do this without having amazing employees and people that are really on that mission. And when we first started, our delivery service came by default. It was because of the fact that we were cultivating and we couldn't sell shit. And that's how we ended up doing a delivery service. I met some of the most amazing people using cannabis, everything from vets. I mean, you name it, in cancer and all that. And that truly is, like you said, it wasn't a path. We were on a pathway of money. That was it. We just knew that we were going to make money in cannabis. And that was the focus. And really quickly that changed. And I'm very excited. I mean, I'm fortunate that happened to myself and my son at that time, because he's very money driven. But this really put the wheels on our cart, you know, in that way. And it was like really like a wow for both of us to see and do deliveries every day. I mean, we went in 6 months, we went from nothing to 80 to 100 deliveries every day, 7 days a week. And we, in the beginning, for the first, 4 months, Cody and I were literally the drivers. I mean, we were the drivers. We'd package. We were on our phones, clipboards while we were driving. Like, you would have thought we had 50 drivers, and it literally was just Cody and I. But we got that experience to really one-on-one with people in their homes, and there were a lot of hard times, man. I mean, I can remember, and I've been robbed and gunpoint and whatnot, but none of that outweighs the good side of what we learned in that. And I can remember my daughter, when she came of age and really wanted to get involved, and at that time, then we had just started our first store in Oceanside. But I took her on a delivery to a guy that was living in a campground that had been in a horrible motorcycle accident, was in a coma for, I think it was 8 months to a year, and that wasn't the biggest part of it, but he literally had half his brain removed. There was like so much involved. And I remember, I took her out there because she was kind of cocky and, kind of like, okay, it is what it is. And that changed her life. If you had her on right now, that was the day that changed her life. And for me to be able to, I just took her with me. And it was, like I said, he was living in a campground, and we got back in the car, and took off from there. And I just remember, like, I kind of sensed something wasn't right with her, and, she started crying, and it was like, what's wrong? And she, emotional, didn't want to say. And, she's just, I mean, at that time, I think she was 18 or 19. I don't remember the exact age. I'm bad with that. But, I just remember she was saying like, I never knew this is what it was. She just didn't understand. And so she went on a lot of deliveries, and that's what brought her into cannabis. And she's an amazing person, and she went to run 2 of our stores of the 4 that we had at the time, and has, did an amazing job there. And now her and my youngest son, Nathan, they run Michigan, which, is $50-60 million a year. It's literally I haven't been to Michigan in, I think, 8 months. Neither is Cody. They're just doing an amazing job, and they have this passion, and she really has a passion in it for helping people and that understanding. And I think that's what's really carved us in the direction that we have gone, and, having the React and whatnot. But I still want to find out, on your product line, are you staying with your product line? Is that still the main focus? So where do we see Venice going?
We're very beverage centric now, to be totally honest. Like, I think baked goods, right? BDS refers to it as infused foods. Baked goods is a category of the past. If you look at the numbers, it's getting smaller every year. The candy category continues to grow. I think gummies are a great delivery system, for supplements and, aspirin and pain relievers. So I think, gummies are a great category. But no, we're definitely moving more toward more beverage centric, which means I am still playing the long game. Right? Like, having founded Venice Cookie Company in 2008 and put out our first drink in 2011, 2012. I never thought it would take this long for legalization to come. And, the beverage category is like 10% of the size of the candy category. So it's still very, very niche. So less crowded space than vape, a much smaller piece of the pie, market share wise.
But I think you're right. I think it's graduating rapidly.
Yeah. It's, what's the future for us is really focusing on a beverage brand or beverage brands that are extendable into other categories, so they can, take some of the revenue from the other categories, but really kind of build it around the beverage as the centerpiece of the brand.
Right.
And really just kind of start to use our licensing model to enter other countries and states.
That was my next question.
Yes, we're getting ready to launch in Canada right now. We've just kind of solidified our offerings for launch in Canada. We're going to be launching with hard candies, gummies,
nice,
cannabis, CQ as a beverage, and subtlety as a beverage. I think we might put out one chocolate, but like in Canada, we're doing no cookies. We're not doing that. We're launching in Florida. We're doing a couple cookies in Florida, but also doing a gummy and hard candy. So actually, it's interesting. We're doing products in other territories that we have never even done in California.
So in doing that, I guess we're kind of opposite in that way. We've grown California. In Michigan, the only thing that we do is carts. Now take that into perspective. So we do about 50 to 60 million in Michigan, and we only do carts. And then in California, we do the carts, gummies, and chocolates and whatnot. We're just getting ready to launch the gummies and chocolates in Michigan and in Oklahoma. So we're kind of curious to see how that goes out. But so now you go into Canada and you're starting with products that you don't have in the US.
Correct. Yeah.
That's got to be kind of exciting.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, I've been creating a lot of different products and been so busy scurrying on the hamster wheel of managing distribution and manufacturing that the innovation pipeline has actually suffered as far as getting the products launched.
Gotcha.
So we have a pretty big catalog of products that we could launch in other territories, and I think that's kind of why we're built for more of a licensing model. Is I feel like I could really tailor different items to different territories depending on whatever's successful in that area.
So you're really watching what the markets are doing.
Yeah, we collaborate really closely with our licensing partners to hear about what their needs are there. And that's what I have the most fun doing, like, figuring out what products to launch with, what categories to roll with, what flavors to do.
What about other states? Are you looking that direction right now, or is that?
Oh, absolutely, man. I want to talk with you about that. For sure. Like, I'd love to get into that, at the right time. But right now we're in Arizona. When we're launching right now, we're only in California and Arizona, and we're getting ready to launch Florida. As I discussed, we have two licensing partners in Arizona or in Florida because of the vertical integration model in Florida. We can actually license our same products to two different companies in Florida, so they can manufacture them and keep them in their.
That's cool. Who do if you don't mind me asking, who did you launch with in Arizona, or who's your?
In Arizona, it's Bloom Dispensaries.
Okay.
They had a deal. They built out a 10,000-foot kitchen with Dixie a few years ago, and that relationship didn't go the way they wanted, and so they gave us a call. And but they make their own beverages and a couple of their own products. So really, they just kind of wanted to do our baked goods and leave it there.
Gotcha.
So I'm not really satisfied with that, because you know how I feel about baked goods. And then
that's a different one for you now.
Yeah. And then in Florida, we're getting ready to launch with Liberty Health, LHS, Liberty Health Sciences.
That's the big guys down there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's two or three that are down there.
Mm-hmm. And then Aleafia and their medical units at Emblem in Canada is where we're putting together our launch for Canada.
So in Florida, are you going for everything but your baked goods?
They're going to do a couple baked goods in Florida. Yeah. I mean,
can't get away from that. As much as you act like you are, you're not.
If people, it's like if if I don't have to deal with making it and I don't have to deal with,
Oh.
you know, managing that number of SKUs, we have it. If they want it, we got it. And I don't really try and push anything, but I'm adamant about getting everyone to do our beverages. But beyond that, I'm adamant about getting into the gummy category, because I just think you have to be in that category.
I'm more than excited that we made that jump into the gummies. And listen, I'll be honest with you. I can't say it so much about the cartridge world, because I mean, there's literally, you know, I think it's 3 something, you know, in California. That's a tough one. I don't recommend that for people, not because I'm trying to shy people away. Once again, it's really a difficult, you know, walking into a store and going, hey, I've got a cartridge. I mean, it's almost before you can say I've got a cartridge that they go, hey, you have a nice day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's also a slimmer margin category too,
Very
from
slim.
what I understand.
Very slim. But the gummies on the other side, we're just, once again, I mean, we're killing it from our standpoint, you know, of where we're at in the gummy side of it. And we just over doubled our production side for gummies, because we can't keep up. So that's a great thing for us here, because we know what that feeling's like in the cartridges in the Michigan world. So I highly recommend, if you're doing anything in cannabis, get into that side of it. The same thing on the chocolate side.
I mean, the monthly revenue of beverage is a little over 2 million a month, right? Of the category.
Right.
And the monthly revenue of gummies, the candy category alone, is 23 million.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's actually going, I mean, it depends on where you're looking at it. It's big.
I was impressed to hear you guys make your own gummies. I thought for sure you guys were using third-party manufacturers for the chocolate and the gummy. And
I thought everybody made their own gummies. That's how we do this. We were always looking at other people going, God, they make their own shit. And, you know, we had a company in here when we first started our distribution side. And we thought even then that they made their own gummies. And once they came into our facility, we found out that they don't. You know, it's a spray, it's this. No, we make everything 100%. Same thing with our chocolate. You know, we make everything, and only because we thought everybody was doing it that way. And then you find out that no, there's co-packing deals that are out there. And since then we've had options for co-packing, very enticing, but we've spent so much money on the equipment and the facility that we're like, we got to make a go at it. And if that side doesn't work, then yeah, we would go to co-packing. Absolutely. I think it's, you know, in Cody's eyes too, in some ways, he's been like, let's drop this. Like this, I don't want to say it's a headache, but it's a separate company. You know, I mean, you're getting into those, you know exactly what this is like, especially going in the baked goods and then the drink side. And I think you have a tincture too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what this is like. And the hard thing for us has been like treating each one as its own company. When you're sitting at these meetings that we have every Monday, you know, we're guilty of what we had issues with in distribution on our own level of going, okay, gummies, separate business from PV. Chocolates, separate business. If you don't treat them like that, they kind of become that, I don't want to say it the wrong way, but the old saying of the redheaded stepchild, you know, you have to be able to focus 100% energy in all those directions. Do you find that true for yourself?
Well, you guys have done something different, right? Everything's branded under the same Platinum name.
Right.
So for me, I've really kind of realized, and maybe this is why being asset light for me has become more of a necessity, is having the CQ brand, right? Cannabis Quencher brand has kind of evolved into being called CQ. And then having Subtlety, and then having Venice Cookie Company, having all these different brands. You know, we go into a lot of stores. Most consumers don't know that Venice Cookie Company is this is the same company that makes Cannabis Quencher or Subtle Tea, right? Not even most bud tenders understand that. A lot of the old school buyers and people like that understand that. But so that's just created its own marketing and awareness challenges. I don't think we've ever really done a good job of leveraging that. It's all made by the same entity.
Right. So it's exactly what I was saying is the fact that you have done what we're talking about is being able to transfer that energy into each aspect of what you're doing and have those companies be separate versus, having, Venice Cookie be like we are with PV and then sitting at the table for us and having those different lines. We are just now realizing, or we did about 4 months ago, that when you order, say, a sticker or a piece of swag, a lanyard, a t-shirt, or whatever it is that we're ordering for PV as far as a cartridge company, why aren't we doing the same thing for our gummies and our chocolates? And when we have people out doing the PADs, why are we so focused on the cartridge side of it, but yet the gummies and chocolates is not getting their own platform? We realize that, and that's the transition that we've made, is to give each one of them their own platform. And I think that's what you're doing already.
Yeah. But it's it's tough. We have the same thoughts as you. As do you bisect your demos to just deal with one product category at a time, or do you throw everything on the table? Is that overwhelming, or is that confusing? Or is that the smart way to do it?
We found it to be extremely confusing. In a lot of different, as we started to really look at this and watch what was happening, we started to see buyers having problems with it. The fact that when you're trying to do a deal with your chocolate or your gummies, when you set up a table to have everything on the table, we found the buyers were having problems with that. And they were like, listen, we want you to market individually. And I understood it, to have somebody standing back wearing a PV shirt, and then have your chocolate and gummy, it was confusing for a lot of people. And so we had to separate all those, in which we've done. And now we have separate, we've got it at the point where they segregate the times of which those are going to happen as far as the PADs. At one point we said, okay, we have our cartridge, you're doing a PAD for the cartridges. Then they would literally go out, they'd change their shirt, they change the tablecloth or whatever, put that on, and go that route. And even then people were like, oh, this is like, I'm not understanding. And so now we just do a whole separate show for each one of them. And it's for us, it's proven. I'll tell you this, on the gummy side of it, it's proven to really work well for us on that level.
Are you providing stores with uninfused gummies in a little candy jar that people can sample?
Just started it.
Yeah.
Just started it. Another great thing, I mean, you pick up what you can, and Plus has been really big about that side of it, and a few others. And so it's like, why not follow suit? I mean, we're trying to understand that market just like anybody else. And the chocolate is just starting to kind of follow suit, but the gummies we can't keep up with. And like I said, we literally our first production since we doubled was last week. So, we're going from, I think right now we're at about, this week is 10,000 gummies, and our goal by the end of the month is to be doing 100,000 a month on the gummy side. And right now we can't keep up. If we track our lost sales, gummies it's off the charts, and it's killing Cody. It's killing all of us.
What's the secret? What's the secret to you guys' success in the gummy category?
What's that?
What's your secret to success in the gummy category?
I mean, I think what if there is I wish that there was something that I go, oh yeah, this is it. I think we really paid attention to giving people what they want. We do so much product testing and the development side of that. Yes, packaging, you know how that works. I mean, that's kind of your craft as well. But I think the product testing side of it and the branding, it's really, I think anything, Kenny, you know this, it's standing behind what you do. There has to be a lot of depth behind what you do. And that's why Venice Cookie is where they're at. It's because you're diligent about standing behind your products and listening to what people, I believe, listening to what people have to say and not being like, oh, fuck, this is me. Like, don't tell me what to do. You know, I mean, we really have taken a ton of criticism through the cartridge side of it and now through the gummies and chocolates, whether it's in-house or all the testing that we do outside of this. You have to listen to people and understand that, you know, yeah, you're the wizard behind that, but you know, if you don't listen to the people that are consuming your products, you're an instant fail. And I think on the gummy side, we don't have any special formula. You know, there's nothing I don't believe that we're doing that is what I understand, because I don't really know, is that we're doing anything amazingly different. I think we're just offering as we try to be a really good product with a lot of back behind it. And I think the trust in the stores to understand that we're gonna market and do everything. That was the big part of it, was the marketing side in the stores. And that was when we really noticed that it really started to take off, because if you're not there to market that product in a store, it's done. The store at the store level, they don't want you combining, this is our gummy and this is our chocolate and this is our cart. They don't want that. They want you promoting those products individually. And I think that's probably the big thing we figured out, honestly.
Do you market them as indica or sativa, or add a need state to the packaging? Yeah,
that's what we're doing now as well. Yeah.
How do you differentiate? Do you use different oil in the indica versus the sativa gummy, or how? No,
I mean, you know, we're back. You know, a couple of years ago, I would have sat back and said, "Hey, go ahead and edit this shit out. Don't ask me that question." You know what I mean? Reality is this: is everything is a terpene profile. I mean, you can't get away from that. Otherwise, everything is based off of the terpene. Distillate. I mean, depending on what you're using in your product. Everybody has a different belief. I'm not here to debunk anything, or, you know, it's just reality. And that profile that you put in on the terpene is going to determine whether or not you're really truly at the sativa, indica, or hybrid level. Mm-hmm. May have a different view on that.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think that skeleton is out of the closet. Especially on the cartridge side, where everybody was, you know, kind of thinking, oh yeah, you know, yeah, we're extracting all the sativa, all the indica, all the hybrid, you know, these guys are just throwing trim into a fucking bag and they're sending it out, and then it gets extracted. And back in the day, don't get me wrong, we did the same thing. Everything we did was specific to that. And that was when you didn't have the capabilities that we do now of having cannabis-derived terpenes, and when you were only extracting and separating the terpene profiles that you could at that time, yeah, it was way different. I mean, our trim room was segregated by strain and by the indica, sativa, and hybrid. We very diligent about that. As soon as you turn it into distillate, it's oil.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think, you know, to answer that question again, is at the store level, I think they really want you to market individually. As much as they know that it's you, they still want you. I think they feel like they're owed, and they truly are owed. If you're going to be on the shelf, it can't be just like a one brand, like here we are. You know, they want you to market individually, and they'll back you. That's what we found. They'll back you on that. If you set your table up and you got, you know, 3 different, you know, SKUs sitting on there of, you know, vape, gummies, chocolates, and tinctures or whatever else. There's not a lot of backing that comes from at the store level, and that's consistent to us across the board.
Yeah, in-store support's crucial these days. You're not going to survive without it.
I mean, back when we had stores, people would come by and drop shit off. It would sell. Maybe we heard from them, maybe we didn't. Then the ones that did, that constantly were at your door was shit that really didn't sell, and then you had the ones that did, and they were consistent, and that's what kind of followed through to people that are here today, I believe.
So you're heading into Oklahoma and what other states?
So we're in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's just crazy. I never would have guessed. I've only driven through Oklahoma. So when that opportunity came up, I was scratching my head. Cody was kind of scratching his head too, but going, maybe this is an avenue. And it really panned out. I mean, Oklahoma's going nuts. It's boggling. And the concept and how that's working in Oklahoma, I think they're at 25 or 2,700 licensed dispensaries in Oklahoma. I think last month was $278 million in revenue in Oklahoma. They have the highest medical card per capita.
Wow.
I mean, it's Oklahoma. You never would have guessed. But everybody's got a fucking card. I think
Right.
I think the percentage, and I could be wrong, if I remember in our meeting with these guys, is above 50%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
Tell me where that's ever happened in any market in any state.
That's
not
insane.
even close. Not even close. Not even California.
No, that's insane.
Yeah.
I remember the metric I heard a lot of people using a handful of years ago, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, was to penetrate new territories. They were considering 3% of the population to be a cannabis consumer, and then doing their math. This was 5-6 years ago, but basically considering 3% of the population would be a cannabis consumer, and then of those 3%, they would consume an ounce of cannabis per month. I think as kind of a forecasting tool, it proved to be pretty effective for a lot of people. But Oklahoma is definitely falls way outside of that.
You know what? And if I'm wrong, I apologize. I should know those exact numbers. But if I'm wrong, I'm not wrong by that much. That I'm sure of. Yeah, everybody's
MSOs aren't even entering California right now, right? I mean, sure, we have the biggest market, the scale of the California market's unsurpassed, unmatched. But I think also the depth of the regulatory nightmare here is unmatched as well. It's like,
yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong, Oklahoma's not careless. I mean, the testing is there. But listen, you want to own a store in Oklahoma? You got $1,000? You got a store. You got a license. You want to cultivate? How much do you want to cultivate? That's it? Do whatever you want.
The level of the rules in Arizona at this stage is, I think you got to put on a 1 inch by ½ inch government warning, and that's it.
Yeah.
We're still doing 1,000 milligram packages of baked goods in Arizona.
Have at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody consume responsibly, and it's up to you. Oklahoma is the Wild West of cannabis in the way of they're not careless, but they're saying, I mean, why limit? You want to have a cannabis store? Have one. Go ahead. You want to cultivate? Cultivate all you want. But you're going to follow under these guidelines, and testing is part of that. It's not as stringent as it is here. The testing here, it's unbelievable. It has cost millions of dollars. Oklahoma just says your product will be pesticide free. However you want to test it in your batches. You don't have to have it cartridge for. It's just a different style. They just said, welcome, everybody, come to Oklahoma.
Is there a potency threshold?
What's that?
Is there maximum potency for your infused products out there?
I think, yes, there is. I don't know what those numbers are. We're just, like I said, we're just getting started on that. I know we're launching, I think in 45 days on that side of it. I don't handle that side. That's a Cody thing. But, yeah, I think it's way out there. Like, I think it's one of those things too, where you can have 500 milligram bar, whatever it is. Like they just really, I don't know the exacts, but it's nothing like this at all. So Oklahoma drinks will be good there too. We're not, I don't see us ever going into the drink market. And I think, if you know Therapy Tonics. Yeah. So they manufactured out of here for about a year. And that's when I really realized, like, man, that's a tough place to be.
They manufactured out of your facility or in San Diego? Really?
Out of here in San Diego. They did. Now they're up in Oakland.
Got it. Yeah. I just sold a bunch of my equipment that's headed to Oklahoma. So, one of my fellow board members in CCMA bought a bunch of our equipment and is sending it out to Oklahoma for manufacturing.
I know it might not be in your view, but it might not be a bad idea, to be honest with you. They're very receptive and, on that level.
No, I think in a lot of ways, that's where all the excitement is. I think it's about, building a national brand. If there's states and territories that are going to make it easier to get going than California, I think the trajectory of growth we're going to experience here is going to be a slog. It's going to take a long, it's going to be a long time before we're able to put a dent in the traditional market or the illicit market, whatever we want to refer to it as.
Yeah. We're all in that boat. And, I think California, we just know that we just want to have a steady growth, whatever that number is, as long as it's a steady growth, then we're okay and we're comfortable. But if we veer off of that, that's where it gets a little bit tough for us to understand what we're going to do. Michigan, Oklahoma, the steady, rapid climb and continuous over the last 3 years in Michigan has been really big for us. Oklahoma, I can't even believe the numbers that we're doing in Oklahoma, and I think we're in 4th month in Oklahoma, and the numbers are just crazy and nowhere near what we thought they were going to be. So we're really excited about that. Arizona, so we're just doing Harvest. So we're just finalizing some stuff with Harvest on the Arizona. So we should be launched there. Construction. Thank you. Construction's going to start here shortly. A great deal. Very open. We're manufacturing. So we kind of like that side of it. But as you know, when you go into another state, it's you can't be careless with that either. You have to be 100%, hands-on. And once again, it's Cody and I, but we built a great team behind that. I think my son is probably going to move to Arizona. We're just doing what we can. And I think, national brand is what's got to happen.
Yeah. So what turned you off from beverage, seeing Therapy operate?
Sorry, say that again.
Why is beverage not for you?
It's just such a different manufacturing process and such, I just think it's in my mind, it's just really difficult. The stabilization part of it, we had, I know on Therapy's side of it, the timeline for which it's good for, and just, I don't know, it's just one of those things that we just never, we don't even think about it, because to us, it's just a really different market and a category. And, and I've watched it. We've had it, the bottling and the whole thing in our facility, and it's a lot of work, man. I don't want to say that we're shying away from, but it's not for us. It's the same thing as far as stores. We thought, we did really well in the store, in the retail side of it. Just wasn't for us. and we got out of that side of it. And the same thing in other avenues. I don't think there's some things that we will just never really want to touch and get into. Baked goods being one of those. Another really, we almost did it, and I literally have plans that were set up for building out a baking side here. And I think it was the smartest thing that we ever did was to kibosh that, but you guys, a lot of other people have those down.
Yes, it's a dying category. Like, I mean, can you imagine eating a cookie every time you had a headache? Can you imagine if that was how you took an aspirin?
Yeah, I see. I got a different view. So my fiance loves edibles and loves the cookies. Yeah. And so you're a favorite in those ways. But I don't know. I understand what you're saying on the medicinal side of that, but I know that a lot of people love to eat cookies, and
I always thought of Venice Cookie Company as a wellness company, and that didn't match up with a lot of people's perception, and so I always from the very beginning understood that we were making a wellness product, and we often, understandably, because it's a cookie, got categorized or pigeonholed into more of a recreational type of product. Right. And so I think that kind of like cognitive dissonance is another reason why the category is going to continue to shrink.
Yeah, I mean, I think in some ways you're right, but I think if you look at it as a brand and across the United States, and and however you choose to go, I think it will always be something that's there. You know what I mean? And I think in that market, like the California side of this is very like I don't know how to describe it, but you've done really well on that side of it. I think there's going to be some states that come up and the cookies are huge. Like the baked goods are huge. And I think, I think do some homework in Oklahoma. I think you guys would be like very well received in Oklahoma, just that mentality that you have. And I think they like cookies. I think you might find, but like what you're doing. I mean, you've got stuff going in Canada, you got stuff going in Florida, and kind of the nice thing is that it's like you have these pockets where you're maybe not mentally experimenting. It's just happening on its own. And the same thing for we literally like just cartridges in Michigan, and now we have people that are going, why, they see what's happening, California, and they see what's happening in other places. And it's like, now we're getting people going, how come we don't have chocolate and gummies? Like we're very loyal to the brand. Why are you not loyal? Literally people going, why aren't you loyal to us to bring these things to Michigan? And that's how we ended up now doing, going into the chocolates and gummies in Michigan. And we flew our chocolate and gummy people out to Oklahoma 2 weeks ago to get that part set up. That's, we never really had plans. We were like, we're just going to keep cartridges there and do that. And then do our things out here. And now people are like, well, people are literally like, this isn't fair. I had somebody that drove from Michigan, and I mean, it's funny because I can show this text where a guy texted me yesterday. He drove out here to purchase with, I think he had $20,000 or $30,000, in his hand. And I did a podcast with him. And he came out here just because he wanted to get chocolates and gummies. Wow. And yeah, and he sent me a message yesterday, with a stack of money saying, I hope that I can spend this and get more chocolates and gummies out. And I got that yesterday. And, But you're limited to a certain percentage, obviously that you can purchase. And I think his initial thing was that he thought he was going to come out here and spend 20 grand and get, 20 grand worth of chocolates and gummies. I'm like, well, you're going to have to be out here for 30 days. You can't just get that. But he's taken that back to Michigan, what he did purchase here and through stores that he was able to purchase at. And he's like, my friends and everybody, it's like, it's just kind of a strange thing. So I said, hey, the chocolates and gummies are going to be out there, just probably not soon enough. And I think I think the cookie side of it, I don't think you'll ever really lose sight of that. That's kind of that's Venice Cookie. It may not be the forefront for you, but I think you're gonna find in other states that people are like, wow, like these are really good. And I don't know. I mean, I think you just find certain things in certain states, in certain cities. I mean, I know you've learned this, that people like certain things and others they don't.
Yeah. I had a girlfriend who used to open up Coyote Uglies across the U.S. and she would tell me Jaeger is big in Florida. Whiskey was what was big in New York. Craft beer was big in the Pacific Northwest. So I guess cannabis will be tribal in that same way. But, I mean, when I look at the analytics, it pretty much seems like, tincture is bigger in California than it is in Colorado. Chocolate sales kind of fell off a cliff when the gummy category really took over in California. Flour and concentrates, I think for the most part, you can see, I think for the most part, it seems, based on my research, to be pretty stable across different territories in the U.S., but you can see kind of the healthy influence in California, compared to other places. But yeah, I mean, I guess I have a fondness in my heart for the Venice Cookie Company brand. It's what launched us, and
I think maybe as you are getting the free time that you have now and the more focused on building your brand and whatnot, getting into another state, you might find that like, wow, people really like this. Like this is what I've done, and people like that. And then obviously any other SKUs that you throw out there, that's going to go as well. But I think you're getting that as we kind of have, like that marketing side of it and the understanding of what people want. The nice thing is that you have a really good variety of what it is that's out there. Dude, listen, we're in flower, we're in pre-rolls. We've got a new company, Bong Buddies. Literally, it says on the package, it's the I forget the saying, and my son and our sales guy came up with it as just one of those things. And it's the best shit that you'll ever smoke, whatever it is. And it's like, it's back in the days of Garbage Pail Kids. And there was a little bet that took off here. It's unbelievable what Bong Buddies is doing as just a cheap pre-roll. It's hilarious because it really started as a joke. And with one of our guys downstairs said, if you sell, I think it was 5,000 or whatever it is, I'll package myself the next 10,000. He sold 5,000 in like maybe 15 minutes just as a joke. And now we can't keep up with them. It's just weird stuff that happens in there. I don't know.
How many square feet do you operate out of in San Diego?
14,000.
Nice.
14,000. And we've been leasing this building for 5-6 years. We bought a building about almost a year ago, actually, in about 15 minutes from here. So we bought this building, and because of licensing, it's in a different city. So we're going through the whole licensing thing. So this building, we're moving everything down one building. Cool. We own it. And it's really kind of cool because right now our offices are upstairs on one side and then our production is downstairs, and we just don't like that disconnection. Whereas this building it's just one big building that, right. So construction, once again, going to be starting. Hate construction, but you know, I think demo starts in the next couple of weeks, and then, you know, thankfully not a lot of construction, but mostly demo.
We had 16,000 feet in Oakland that we were operating out of, and I just sold that. But we were lucky to find a food manufacturing facility up in Oakland that didn't take too much work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think up there in those areas especially, there's a lot of big square footage places that you can open up. Am I right?
I mean, there's a lot of real estate up there. I mean, you know, we're spending 3 times the amount of our lease rate and security up there.
Is it really?
So the facility I was building out down here in Culver City, rent was pretty high, but security wasn't going to cost that much money. Whereas up there, rent was very, very affordable. But we're spending $30,000 a month in security.
Is that in your security company, or what is it like? What does that entail?
Armed guards on site.
Oh,
yeah. East Oakland, baby.
Yeah, that's true.
East Oakland.
We actually started our own security company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we I don't know. It's just one of those things. We had a security company and it was so expensive. And so we have security here 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. But they're kind of like top flight security. You know, they're only here just to report, and in that way, and we've really secured the facility in itself and cameras and all that. But yeah, we have security 7/24, and we're our own security company.
Nice work.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, we're very fortunate, and the guy that runs that side of it, he's our day security here, and so we never hear anything. I don't know how. I think we have maybe 4 or 5 security guards, and he runs that whole side of it, and that company, you know, it's our company, and he gets paid to run the security, and he's really good at it. And so for the past 2 years, that's what I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't know. We just ended up starting our own security company.
Awesome. We got robbed in Oakland the day I brought my baby home, Kian, who you just met from the hospital. The first night he stayed at home, I woke up in the morning and we got robbed in Oakland.
Did you really?
Yeah, Oakland is no joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, and where we're moving to is very secure as well. So, you know, that sucks. I mean, we've been robbed. I couldn't tell you how many times. You know, that's another thing, you know, that in this business, it's like, you know, normal stuff. I owned a flooring company for 17 years. Listen, in all the years, I was never robbed. I never had somebody break into my building to steal a roll of carpet or tile or anything like that. It never happened, you know? And that's another aspect of what we do. And they just don't allow us to be truly safe in that aspect of what we do. Being able to have transport of money. Like, we don't even like cash. I mean, that's for us. We don't even like cash. We don't like it in the facility. We don't like it anywhere, but it's, you know, unfortunately it's what we have to deal with. And I know you're in the same boat. You know, when we come in on Mondays and our northern deliveries come down and whatnot, it's the scariest time for us at all. Like, we sweat that because we have been robbed so many times and been fortunate that nobody got hurt. That's been the biggest thing. But, you know, on average, I bet you we probably lost easily in this last year and a half, 2 years, probably $300,000-$400,000. I mean, we've been robbed literally. In Modesto, we call it Modesto, our delivery person was at a Wendy's in the drive-thru, just ordered their food, was getting ready to pull out the drive-thru. Car pulls up right in front of him, jumps out with guns, breaks the window, and, you know, and one guy climbs in the van, and the only thing they got was our driver's his little backpack for with his clothes and stuff in it.
Oh, wow. Have you ever gotten robbed by Border Patrol leaving San Diego?
Yes. We actually with Indus, they got us out at the Sunrise Highway checkpoint. We've always, when we were doing deliveries, you deliver out. You don't deliver, and you don't have anything coming back. And Indus did a route through Arizona, or not through Arizona, but through the east and came down. And
Needles.
What's that? Needles.
Through Needles.
Yes. Yeah. And came down, and they had our shipment, all of our product that was going to San Diego. And we had the largest part of that stock, which was about $70,000, $70,000 or $80,000. And yeah, they took everything right there.
Damn.
And we in Sacramento at 1:00 in the afternoon in the downtown, and a car stopped in front and a car stopped in back of our this is our deliveries. Just like in the movies, in the front and the back, went out, jumped out, pulled the driver out of the van, ran him around to the back, middle of the day. This is 1:00 in the afternoon in the downtown Sacramento, and with guns out, held a gun to him, made him open up the safe and take the money out. And that was like, I think 60 or 70 grand. And they'd watched him leave from a delivery, from a drop. And so there's a whole other side to this that, that nobody really sees. And the biggest thing for us, honestly, that driver quit. He was so, PTSD is now part of his life because of that. And he was never the same. A great guy. He worked for us for a long time.
What a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. So, man, I don't know where are we going with this. It's like we're having these ups and downs, and we're all over the place.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm low energy and boring right now.
No, is this therapy?
Yeah, maybe.
I always look at it.
Bunny t-shirt.
Well, the trailer looks like Breaking Bad. The scene from Breaking Bad.
Oh shit!
Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I might be looking for a trailer here. Honestly, I got to follow that direction. Wow. So Venice is going. It's going places. You guys you're off to other states. Kind of consolidating. You're now in this position where you're doing a lot of licensing deals. It looks like, and
I'm ready to start ramping that up. Ready to start ramping up the licensing deals. Right now, we're just divesting the last of our assets. Some equipment. Some capital equipment, and going through a due diligence phase of selling our license in Culver City. And then it'll really be full speed ahead on launching a few new products here in California. A couple fun ideas I want to finally get out there. And then just have a big, deep catalog of things that we currently are selling, things we used to make, things we haven't launched yet for every territory, whether it be, Germany or Canada or Oklahoma.
Isn't that crazy? Like you just throw wherever. Germany, it's like, I mean, in cannabis, it's just always funny to listen to that. It's like worldwide. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. Well, listen, I know he's got written down over here. I don't know how long ago that was put up, but that was 100 minutes. So we have officially hit the all-time high time on a podcast. So that's.
Well, I hope you can cut it into something.
Don't worry.
I hope it wasn't too boring.
No, not at all. Not at all. Like, listen, if it was boring, this would have been a 28-minute podcast. Listen, I mean, once again, I have to thank you. And if there's anything else, I can go on forever. And I love this part of understanding, like, the one thing that I have to ask is, and I don't know how I failed on this, and this is where Tommy should step in, is the fact that how did you get into cannabis? That's what this is about. You didn't grow up in this.
My brother's best friend, who he had a band with in high school. So when my brother met one of his best friends when he was 12 and I was 8. And he grew up in Big Sur. His name's Mojave. He's now, a consultant. He has a company called Bioagronomics, and he's consulting Tanzania on growing cannabis. And
wow.
His business partner is Rob Clark, who wrote Hemp Pests and Diseases and is an ethnobotanist and a really like a foremost voice on cannabis cultivation from an ethnobotanical standpoint. Anyways, he was he moved to Amsterdam, I think in the late 80s, early 90s, and started growing cannabis out there. And when he moved back to the US, him and his whole family, he's like 3rd generation cannabis farmer. I'm rambling, I'm all over the place, but his family's from Big Sur. He's 3rd generation cannabis farmer in his family. And I was really lucky to have him as kind of one of my early influences, and just someone who I partnered up growing, illicit basement cannabis with.
Right.
And so I was, selling pot out of my house through college. And I decided really early on, I was like, you know what, I got to stop doing this because life's too easy. I was like, I'm making money too easily. And, I don't want to get stuck doing this forever. So I actually moved out of my house that I owned, treated it like an asset, rented it out, moved into a rental house in Santa Monica Canyon, got a roommate, and tried to sort of reinvent myself and figure out what I was going to do. And I ended up meeting the owner of one of the first 5 cannabis collectives, one of the first 5 dispensaries in all of LA County. And him and I sort of hit it off, and I started seeing it more as a career than just a way of making, easy underground money.
Right.
And so ironically, I took the cannabis business from a way to support myself through college into a decision of, okay, this is going to be a formal business, and I'm going to try and spearhead the creation of, be a pioneer and create, formalize the cannabis industry.
What year was that?
That was 2006 when I met him.
Okay.
And so we started building out a few dispensaries. And through, where I typically end up starting this story is I tell people I started making a documentary about this guy. And that is how I met him. Is I started making a documentary of this guy named Michael Omaha, who had one of the first 5 dispensaries in all of LA County. And by interviewing his patients at the store, I started really getting my education the way you guys did and your daughter did with the delivery service. And within a month of me shooting that documentary, he was like, put the camera down, help me open some more stores. So after a month, we found a location on Abbot Kinney down the street from where I live. And we found a location in Westwood Village where I actually grew up renting videos with my mom. I went to UCLA. I was an English major. And so I understood the Westwood Village area well. I understood Venice Beach area well. And so we expanded from the original store in West Hollywood into 2 additional stores, one in Venice and one in Westwood. And they both still exist today. The store in Venice moved to Rose and is now the Rose Collective. Yep. And the store in Westwood, I think, is still called the Westwood Pharmacy. I think it was called Sunnyside Collective for a little while. But those were basically dispensaries that our group started. And I learned pretty quickly. I was like, you know what? I want to be on the supply side. Retail's not for me. I'd rather be, for lack of a better analogy, I'd rather be Doritos than 7-Eleven.
That's where we have a huge parallel.
Yeah. So, and I had fun building brands and creating packaging. Yeah. And, I'm kind of an artist at heart, and a photographer and a creative brain. So I started making brands. I pivoted to that in 2008, and we incubated the brands through selling the products just at the pharmacy. And that was kind of where the product started. And it figured, Venice Cookie Company was the right name for the company.
There you go. You actually, like, I didn't know. I had no clue. I mean, Venice Cookie Company. I thought that was just something you came up with, but there's a reason behind that.
Yeah, Venice is, I think, the closest thing we have to Haight-Ashbury in Southern California, and it's definitely been a place that encouraged individualism and radical innovation and all those sort of things. Whether it was the Dogtown and Z Boys, or I remember as a young teenager walking up and down the boardwalk, seeing the old hippie selling a copy of Jack Herrera's "The Emperor Wears No Clothes."
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And so that was how Venice Cookie Company started. And then Dennis Hopper's nurse, Dennis Hopper, longtime Venice resident, his nurse came into our dispensary in early 2010, and I was full-time building the edibles company at that time. The manager called me and said, "Hey, Dennis Hopper's nurse just came in here, and he's looking for a tea. He wants like a hot, soothing tea. He's going through chemo, and he's dealing with cancer right now, and things aren't looking good, and he just wants something to kind of ease his pain." And so I instantly left the office and went to Trader Joe's and started buying different types of tea and figured out how to activate it, and delivered hot tea to Dennis Hopper's doorstep. And I couldn't figure out how to make it really potent. I couldn't figure out how to make it as strong as probably a Dennis Hopper could handle.
Right.
So I delivered it to his door, and I said, "This is called subtle tea," because it wasn't very strong. And I guess his nurse told me he really liked it, and Dennis would like some more tea. So could you deliver some more? And so that was how the subtle tea brand started, was by, like you said, everything's about listening to what people want, right? And listening to the consumer.
What a crazy story.
Yeah.
And look where you're at now with that.
Yeah. So now subtle tea is being sold in Erewhon down the street here in Venice. It's a whole different Venice than it was back then. I mean, 2007, when we were building out the Venice pharmacy, Abbott Kinney Venice Beach was not the thing that it is now. This is all pre-Snapchat and pre-Google and pre that whole crazy era, when it still had a little bit more of a Maverick vibe to it.
And Dennis Hopper is responsible for the tea.
Yeah. I will always thank him for requesting a tea. And that was how I came up with that clever name, was basically because I was figuring out how to make it. And so, yeah, that's kind of a nice homegrown Venice story,
But how crazy is it that, I mean, here you graduated from UCLA, right?
I got my AA there, and I dropped out of UCLA.
Okay, but
I dropped out of UCLA because I tell people, like, the best thing I got out of UCLA was like a hot model girlfriend. I was like, I was 5'8", and my girlfriend was 5'10", and the first time I saw her in class, I was like, "Oh wow, she's hot. I'm gonna go talk to her." And so I hopped on my skateboard and I skated up to her, and that was how I was the same height as her. I was on my skateboard going, "Hey, what's up? How are you?" And we were talking. But I mean, like, I went to Santa Monica College. I actually got out of high school when I was 15. I took the proficiency test, and I started going to Santa Monica College.
See, another common thing is I quit high school at 15.
Yeah.
Actually,
I started doing that, and I was taking classes that interested me on a time schedule that worked for me, because I was doing some acting and some of that stuff. And when I transferred to UCLA, I was really kind of disappointed at what I anticipated to be like the elevated caliber of student. Santa Monica Junior College was amazing, because I'd have like a senior citizen in my English class next to me, and she wasn't afraid to give me her opinion on the class.
Very diverse, huh?
Yeah, it was very diverse. In UCLA, you could get away with doing very little, and I was not doing very much. So I was in an anthropology class, and I said, if I pass this test, if I pass this midterm that I've done no studying for, I've only come to class, taken notes, never even opened my book to study outside of class. I said, if I pass this test, I'm dropping out of UCLA. and I got a B plus on the test. And I remember walking out of the classroom, and a kid walked out of the classroom. He reached in his backpack and pulled out a Corona and cracked it and drank his Corona on campus. And I was like, what a tool. I'm out of here.
I'm out of here.
You know?
Okay. Well, I mean, my whole UCLA thing just took a right-hand turn. It was like, oh, here's this UCLA grad, you know. But the fact of the matter is that your path didn't come from cannabis, you know, and the fact that you were on a separate path. Yes, you sold weed. I mean, we all did. I sold a ton of weed, you know, in my younger day as well. But never was there a point where cannabis was like, you know, it was your direct path. You had other aspirations, obviously. You had a lot of things going on, and but what an amazing path you took when you did make that turn on the cannabis side, and looking at the relationships. I'm sure that you have lifelong relationships, and the fact that, you know, you were in the retail side of it. And a lot of people look at, even on our part, when we hit retail and we launched our 4th store inside of a year, the money that was being made and everybody was just like, oh, it's kind of like you hit. We were never really happy on the store level. And it was great to find out with myself and my son sitting at the same table and at one point trying to pull off like we were happy with it, and really we were both just so unhappy in the retail space, and we really wanted, but we didn't say anything to each other until at one point that we really realized that both of us wanted out of that. And you know, and we wanted to manufacture, we wanted to, you know, to do like what you were doing in your time. We wanted to create, and the stores are so consuming. It's and it's monotonous. It's a daily routine. It's, you know, open the door at 8 a.m., you know, 10 a.m. your people are coming in, and 10 o'clock at night or whatever, 10 to 8, you know, that was just a day, and you have to be there. You have to be there. And so I think that's kind of a parallel there, that we just really wanted to be creative and build something other than the store, the retail side of it. All our stores were Nature's Leaf. But we wanted to create, and it's a different breed of person that handles the retail side of that. But nonetheless, like, look at you as a person, as a father, as a husband, as a son. You know, I mean, your life has been cannabis, truly has been. You can't, you know, and I think I mean, obviously you're super proud of the fact that that's been the case, but look at your, I mean, not to say that you're a normal guy, you are, you know, and I'm sure people look, you know, used to look at cannabis as like, you know, especially yourself and the time that you were involved in cannabis, dude, you're a bad guy. Like you know, you're a rebel. You're the dark side of the world when you're at, you know, in the stage you were in cannabis. You know, I'm sure there was a time where you didn't, I'm going to assume that you didn't want people to know what you did in some ways, or maybe you didn't care, but
I think more than anything, it was just, I think maybe one of my defining characteristics was just an elevated risk tolerance, right? And I saw it as like, you know, in 2006, like, wow, this is like the birth of an industry, and we're going to have the ability to shape that industry. It was, the parallel that I drew was looking at like, this is what it must have been like to be a pro surfer in the late 70s. And be like some of these, you know, surf shop owners who went on to build, you know, OP or clothing brands, you know what I mean?
G&S, like, all those guys.
Yeah. The guy who started the original pharmacy in West Hollywood, he grew up in the Santa Barbara area, and or he spent a lot of time in the Santa Barbara area. And he told me as like in his 20s, they used to see like this super nerdy kid worked at the surf shop, and he remembered a handful of years later he went sailing by out in the ocean, and they were like, oh, that's such and such, the guy who started Ocean Pacific. So it was like, there's probably going to be that same phenomenon today where there's, kids who are bud tenders in dispensaries who will go on to start, world famous cannabis brands.
Yep.
And I think we use the birth of the action sports industry in like the mid late 80s as kind of a template of what we saw was going to happen in cannabis.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but listen, in the end, not in the end, because I honestly feel like we're just getting started.
Oh yeah.
And I love that energy. And I love the fact that, even with my son, like that energy is there, that we have more momentum and more energy than we ever had. And that's sometimes it's boggling. Sometimes it makes me nervous to try to understand why that is. But I think it's just because this industry has so much energy and it's been building, and we're now getting close to legalization. There's just a lot of great things that are happening in cannabis, and the fact that now we're an essential business, it's just, there's a lot of great things happening in cannabis. And I think, I think we're in this now at the right time is how I look at it.
Yeah.
And
I've heard people say we're going to see cannabis get really uncool in our lifetime, which in a lot of ways is kind of what we should be aiming for, right? Because for so long, cannabis was associated so much with such a crucial part of people's identity, whether they, cannabis was a symbol for, burning the American flag, and I'm not going to go fight for this country, whether
right.
in Vietnam or, a way of telling your parents to fuck off. Or I think cannabis needs to, as cannabis is normalized and becomes more commonplace, it should become a little more boring and not so exciting. But on the business side of things, it's super exciting, right? But
yeah.
How it's positioned as we use it in our lives and part of our lifestyle, it's nice to be seeing it become normalized.
Yeah. And, and yesterday I had some friends over, and they have a 15-year-old daughter, and they, he's in the government space. So he has never and doesn't use cannabis, but his wife does. And they found out that their daughter, was going over to a friend's house, and they were vaping, and it, kind of became this thing. And she uses cannabis, but that's just, there's always just this awkward, and you having kids, you're going to go through this process as well, and what's right and what's wrong, and when, and all this. And the thing and they were over, and they were swimming, and we had a barbecue and all this stuff going on. And it was a troubling spot for them because, it's like, you just don't know what to do. And I've gone through this, and, and I know what it's like to have my son outside my door while I'm in the bathroom smoking, and he's like, what's burning? What's going on? And I know that uncomfortable feeling. And then as you get older, you really want your kids to understand where you're at in your life, and cannabis, and what's right and what's wrong, and really just be truthful and understand that they are, they're a direct image of yourself, and don't bullshit them. When you get to that stage where you can eye to eye contact with them and they really understand, that's when you got to suck it up, and you got to be truthful about, who you are, where you're at, and where you've been, and just play it out, to them how you see it, and they're going to do what they're going to do. And so they were really having a hard time with her, and she's a great kid, but she's 15. And so I kind of took it at the end, right before they were leaving, and we were all sitting in the living room, and the 15-year-old, she was sitting there, and I kind of said, hey, listen, I'm going to say something that, your parents don't even know. And they were sitting there, and I basically had said, listen, I understand you and what you're doing, and your parents are a little bit discombobulated, and you know that your mom uses cannabis, and so that it offers a lot of mixed feelings across the board for her as a 15-year-old, and she wants to keep it to herself. But I said the most important thing is understand this, is that you need to really respect yourself And I know you're 15. Nobody's going to tell you you're going to live forever right now. Like you're going to live forever. And I understand that, but just be safe about it. And just understand that the world is different in cannabis now than it was 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And with the way that things are manufactured, back in the day, we could smoke 100 pounds of flower, and the levels of pesticides with Eagle and all the other shit that was put in it, we weren't getting it in the concentrated levels that you get it now. And we don't understand. We do understand that now with the concentrated levels through extraction of these pesticides, it's extremely damaging. And that was the confusing part where I had explained, like, listen, as a mother, you owe it you owe the safety to your children and to your child. If you have the knowledge of understanding that in the black market, there is a huge problem with the issues with concentrates. And so you're kind of caught in this fence where you know that your daughter is vaping and you know that she's getting stuff from the black market. And I can tell you just through my experience and with what I do with testing all the time. I'm not saying, I'm not a person that did it once and is saying I do it all the time. Like, I test all the time. I go to black market dispensaries and I purchase products and I test them. And just so that we understand here, and the levels of pesticides in this, it's crazy. And so what I'm getting at is I had said, you owe it to your child to make sure that everything is being done as safe as possible. And we have that talk about sex. We have all these talks that go on. This is part of it. It's a normal. I hate to, break it to people that don't think that it is. It is a normal. And that conversation about being safe with cannabis is extremely important that they understand. And I said, as weird as it is, it's best that you provide her with the safe product versus her going out and getting it, because we have enough problems with cancer and all the other things that are going on to have your 15-year-old, hunkering down, smoking, this black market pesticide-ridden products in the concentrated levels, and then, to get to 18, 19 years old and have a cancer. And I just, that's my perspective on it. And I said,
teach your kids to buy legal.
What's that?
Teach your kids to buy legal.
And that's, and that's, as stupid as that sounds, it's the reality. And it's tough to say it, but they had no idea that I was going to say it. And she was really receptive to me and that's how kids are. Parents, they don't, at that age, it's you don't matter. You matter, but what you say doesn't matter. And so, I just kept hammering, like, just be safe. Like, as weird as that sounds coming from somebody about cannabis and about pot, weed, whatever you want to, like, be safe. Understand that now with the levels of concentration that are out there, it's harmful. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying go buy Platinum Vape. I'm saying, like, look, just be safe about it. And, once again, I get a text message this morning from the dad, and it's one of those things that he says, had a great time yesterday. Really appreciate you guys having us over. Such great hosts. He said, I also can't thank you enough for educating his daughter, which he had her name, on the safety aspects of licensed versus unlicensed cards. Hearing it from you instead of her mom and dad made all the difference. That's those things to me, they're worth everything that I do, because I want people to understand that there's a safety aspect to consuming cannabis, and it's especially not vape. And it's not, especially vape. And that's my company. And it's not to be careless about it. As much as you don't realize it, there is a safety precaution to using cannabis. And it's not like, oh, don't smoke so much because you'll die. It's like, just really understand what you're putting in your body. And I understand back in the day, as far as smoking flower, the levels that you would smoke, I mean, over a period of many years, yes, I get it, but the concentrated levels they're extremely harmful now. And and that's the scary part about it, for sure. So once again, I mean, I don't know where I went with that, but like we're all over the place.
Yeah, no, not only have THC concentrations gone up in cannabis, but pesticide level concentrations have gone up.
And that's it. Anything that goes up, it's all following suit. And if you're cultivating with this, it's going to run all the way through. And guess what? They're still cultivating, they're still using, these pesticides, and there's still a market for it. And I get it. But it's also, I feel obligated to make sure that people understand that you just really need to be safe with that aspect of cannabis. I mean, there's not much more to it than that. Yeah. I just really hate the thought of what's going to happen 10 years down the road when people start to really see the studies and the harmful effects of vaping, and that it's on the back of vaping, not the cultivation and the process is getting there. That's the downside of what I just don't want. I don't want to see, on the industry. We have enough negative sides of this that we don't need another vape gate and all that stuff that's going on. And people are more aware now. So
vaping's a complicated one, man. There's so much that's unknown about it. There's so many different ingredients that people are adding to illicit vapes, right? Yep. And how positive are you that every vape cartridge that you guys have, I mean, I'm sure you guys have great engineers and great quality carts, but whatever brand vape cart you guys use versus someone else, they probably don't burn at the exact same temperature, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's another big problem that you have is the temperatures of which people are using these cartridges and the batteries. So if you're using a regular 510, kids are hooking them up to these, fucking modded out vape things just to burn and get smoke and clouds out of it. That's where I think it's really crucial to once again understand that it's so far from what's needed in that side of it. And when you do get into like our Dart pod system and other pod systems, I think that's the benefit to those, is that they are set. You can't change that. The modded systems, I'm in hopes at some point that goes away as far as the universal side of that. We all hope for a pod system.
That's what CDC was recommending after the whole eval vape crisis, was not allowing people to do the vape mods. They wanted closed tanks, right? So you couldn't add your own ingredients and flavors, but only the manufacturer could be responsible for that.
Right. I think that, I'm 100% for that, but I'm also more so because you can take any of your 510 thread carts, and the kids are using their e-cigarette with these batteries that they look like walkie-talkies, and they can dial up the heat and everything, on how those things are charging, and it's frying. And at that point, you don't know what's happening when, if you're a ceramic coil, even then you're still burning things. You're taking the oil to a temperature that nobody understands what it's supposed to do or what it does to you at that point. The carcinogens that are generated through the actual burning process versus heating. And that's what's nice about a pod system is that temperature is already controlled. You can't modify it. You can't take a Dart pod and put it onto one of these mod system batteries that are used for e-cigarettes for generating these giant clouds.
Right.
That's where we run into a problem. So I believe at some point, however it can be done, that those systems need to be they need to be set. They need to be temperature regulated. And the unfortunate thing is that we're in that category as well. So we just highly recommend that on the sales side of it, that they're educating their customers to know that these need to be used with our batteries. But you never You never get that because our battery sales are, you know, a slight fraction of anything else that we sell. It's more of just a space filler at sometimes. So I don't know that there's a big group of people using those, but the downside is that it's the kids or the younger generation that is looking to generate these giant smoke clouds out of cannabis, and who knows what's happening on that. Yeah. So, and we take turns right and left in this. We're 2.5 hours in this. I think Tommy, are you up? I could go on forever. Listen, Kenny, if there's anything else, let's go. If there's not, we got time for, you know, down the road. I'm excited to see, you know, the directions that you go. I would love to be a part of, you know, if we have continued talks into Michigan and if there's any way that we can help or be a part of that, you know, I always say it, man, there's room for everybody. I can't stand the fact that some of these things in cannabis, there's like these walls up, like, you know, I mean, we're all in this, and
I'd love to talk business with you, man. I'd love to talk Oklahoma, Michigan, anywhere else that you guys would be interested in having me.
Yeah.
So.
Hopefully this shit ends. You know, I mean, these Zoom, there's nothing more fun than sitting down and going through this and having somebody over.
I wish I could be there. I really wish I could have made it there.
But it seems to be, you know, what's going on right now, which is fine. I'm glad that we got this time together. I don't know, you're going to be at Hall of Flowers and the virtual one's coming up. And then I think we have the other one that may take place.
I am so out of the mode of all of those, of all of it right now. I'm so just focused on the basics and divesting, you know, these assets we have right now and taking a new direction and all of that. But I make decisions on Hall of Flowers and stuff like that usually like the night before, and then I end up just like bouncing.
Well, you know where we're at. We can't. Our decisions were made 6 months ago.
Right.
And then we have to live with them. That's the shitty part. We got to live with those decisions. Well, listen, if there's anything else, once again, and we didn't get into some of the other stuff, but I mean, the most important side is what you're doing with your company. And, you know, and once again, I hate to say it. We've stumped it. This is a guy that's been involved in cannabis and I mean, is raising a family and is totally involved and he's okay. He's, you know, he's not the cannabis monster that everybody, you know, seems to think is out there. He's just, you know, another normal person just enjoying cannabis.
Another workaholic. Just another workaholic.
Yeah. Well, workaholic is in this industry as an owner. That's an understatement. But you know, the ones that are out there that know what we're talking about, they understand it, and you can't express it enough to people when they do get involved in this industry. They go, "Wow!" Like I had no idea what I was getting into. But anyways, listen, congrats. I mean, Venice Cookie alive and well as always, going and growing. Excited to see where you're going, and I would love to talk. You know, the other things that we can be involved with together. We don't need to wait until COVID. I think we should, you know, get on a call or whatever it is and continue that side of it.
Let's do it.
And hey, congrats on, you have one and one on the way. And the trailer, it doesn't do any good sitting in the yard. You know what I mean?
No, we got to get this thing out there. We do. We bought this trailer without even having a car that can tow it. So I can't.
That's great.
And we were checking out other people's trailers and all of that.
Yeah.
We're working on getting a car that can tow this thing.
Yeah, rent them. It's easier to rent sometimes.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. All right, Kenny, listen, thank you once again. I know it's a weird thing to say because you have been an idol. We're not that far apart in some ways, but we're a long ways. You know, that span that you've been involved in cannabis before we have is, I look at these things as whatever I can grab as a pathway. I'm not out to reinvent things. And so you've been a big part, and I know on Cody's part as well, you know, of helping us through this direction that we're going. So it's, you know, it's kind of weird to say, and I know it's uncomfortable in some people, but yeah, you've been an icon to us and in understanding, like, wow, where you've been and how we've gotten to this point. It's, you know, there's people that we have to thank. So, I mean, I have to thank you because Venice Cookie, you know, has been a huge part of cannabis and is a huge part of cannabis. And I think if there is going to be a cannabis hall of fame down the road, which I think there will be some, you know, we got cannabis museums and whatnot. I'm not saying it, and if he edits it out, it's fine. I'm just telling it to you. I think you'll be one of those guys that's sitting in there and people are going to look at for a long time. I know it's weird to say and it's weird to hear, but that's just the truth. Like sometimes even for us, like we don't understand where we're at in this industry, and maybe you do, and that's great. But sometimes it's cool to kind of hear, like, you know, it's pretty cool to be able to talk to you and understand, you know, where you've come from and how you get there. This is a huge story. At some point you're going to write a book, you know, I mean, this is stuff that really means a lot to other people. And I don't read shit, but when I get into the cannabis side, like I can read a lot of these stories. And I just think that, you know, it doesn't seem like it. And you're back here and you're flashing like Venice and, you know, all these iconic things that have gone on, and you don't realize what that's done and what it's really doing for you. But down the road somewhere, you're going to be like, okay, this is pretty fucking cool. Maybe not right now, but.
Well, that's a huge honor that you said that to me. And, thanks, man. That's really cool. But
like I said, it's uncomfortable.
Hopefully we're both halfway through the story. You know what I mean? I think you know, it's just still the very, very early days. And I think both of our brands have so much further to go. And there's probably going to be so much change that we see happen. Let's just hope we like a lot of the change that we see happen. Right. I mean, it's going to become, you know, more and more corporate, and hopefully still be able to retain its soul and all of those things. But, you know, already how much you and I have seen the industry change. It's insane. You know? It
is. And I can say, the good outweighs the bad by far. Yeah. You know, so, and that's the only reason that we're still in this is because the good outweighs the bad. I'm excited. I'm excited to see. And if this was a money driven side of it for us, I don't think we'd be here. I honestly don't think that we would be here. Like I said, I mean, I could see, you know, you live a simple life in a lot of ways. And, you know, we do the same. And I said it, Tommy, you know, there's
easier ways to make money than the cannabis industry.
That's the truth. That Tommy should be the end of this podcast, is that there's easier ways to make money than cannabis.
Yeah.
And some people will really understand how fucking crazy we are. Nobody but us will really understand the hours that you have into that company is to most people, it's unimaginable.
No, to most people, we're masochists when they hear what we go through to run our business.
Yeah. Yeah. And have families. It's tough, but anyways, listen, thanks again. This isn't the end, obviously.
Let's talk shop.
We still got your mom between us too. So
yeah,
which is great. I love your mom. She's going to watch us, I'm sure. And they are so responsible for Cody and I coming out of the closet. Like she's the first one that said, you need to get out and about. Your story needs to get told. We never understood that. Nobody even knew that we owned Platinum Vape. We'd be at shows and we just worked for Platinum Vape. You know, I mean, we just kind of had that. Your mom was the one that said, you guys your story needs to get out. And we just, you know, we didn't understand. And then it started happening. And and you know, she's pushing and pushing, and now we get all these people, you know, these interviews and stuff. It's awkward in some ways, and then it's kind of like it's been therapeutic on our part because we've been able to talk about what we've been doing, that we never stopped and ever paid attention to what was happening. And I don't know if you've had that, but because you've done a lot more, you know, your name is out there. It's not hidden in any way. And for us, it wasn't. And then we had people going, oh, like, wow, you guys did this. You guys are the owners. And then most people are the same thing. It's like, who's your investors? You know, who's this, who's that? And so those stories are out there. And it, you know, and I have to thank Kip for that because, you know, Cody's very apprehensive about that side of it. He's a very quiet person on that level. I'm the other side. But I think in building a brand, it's important for people to understand who's behind that. Regardless of investors or whatever, they need to understand who's behind that brand.
Sure. Yeah, well, you and Cody are an incredible success story, and that's so awesome what you guys have built together. And there's very, very, very few brands. I can't think of another brand out there who can say it's, you know, 100% family owned, started by a father and a son. That's incredible, man. That's really cool.
And I appreciate that. And coming from you, especially, it's eye opening. We always, like I said, we always thought that everybody did it this way. And I think a lot of people, you know, have and do, but it's not,
and they fail.
We never, yeah, they do fail, but we never had anybody come to give us money until I think about a year and a half ago or whatever it was. And then we were so nervous about it that we don't want to owe people money. And so we said, wow, like it's cool, but what are we going to do with that much money? Like what are we going to do with it? And then you see what does happen with it. And it's, you know, and so I think at this point for us, it's been kind of our savior.
Don't take that money. You'll turn into Dan Bilzerian. You'll burn it all.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the latest report on that, but yeah, wow, man. I'd just like to lose that much money in the last year. I mean,
nuts.
It's crazy, but I mean, you know, there's a lot of them out there. So, all right, listen, thank you again. And
thank you.
On the end of this, PV Unfiltered, #1 cannabis podcast in the nation. Like and subscribe. There's no money involved in this. It's straight up just talks to see how people are doing in cannabis. And thank you, Kenny, again, for being a part of this. And look forward to talking some more.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, Kenny.